Across much of the world, a single examination can determine a student's educational future: admission to a university, entry into a professional program, access to scholarships, opportunities for advanced study. These high stakes examinations often serve as gateways into higher education. Supporters argue that such exams promote fairness. Every student faces the same questions, every student is evaluated according to the same standard. But critics argue that high stakes examinations can narrow education. When a single test carries enormous weight, learning sometimes becomes focused on preparing for that moment, which raises an interesting question. Why have examinations become such powerful institutions in global education systems? Welcome back to the EdTech Curio Cabinet. Hello again, I'm Christina, the Curio Steward. This season of the EdTech Curio Cabinet is exploring how education systems around the world shape learning. Today's Curio focuses on one of the most influential structures in modern education: the examination. Across many countries, high-stakes exams influence how students study, how teachers teach, and how universities select their students. But to understand why these exams remain so central, we need to look at the systems behind them. Many countries rely heavily on standardized national examinations as a central feature to their education systems. One of the most well-known examples is China's Gaokao, an exam that is often described as one of the most consequential academic assessments in the world. Each year, millions of students sit for the Gaokao. For many, the results play a defining role in determining access to university programs and, by extension, future career pathways. Other countries operate similar systems, each with their own variations, but with a shared underlying goal: to create consistent standards across large and diverse populations. At scale, this is no small challenge. Standardized examinations provide a way to evaluate students using common criteria, a way to compare performance across regions and institutions, and allocate limited educational opportunities in a structured and transparent way. In systems serving millions of learners, these exams act as a kind of organizing mechanism. They bring coherence to otherwise highly complex educational landscapes. But their influence doesn't stop at admissions decisions. Over time, they begin to shape the entire educational experience. Historically, examination systems have often been introduced with a very specific purpose: to promote merit-based selection. One of the earliest and most influential examples emerged in Imperial China through the Imperial examination system. For centuries, candidates seeking positions in government studied classical texts and demonstrated their knowledge through rigorous written examinations. In principle, success depended not on family status or wealth, but on the intellectual ability and disciplined preparation. It was an ambitious idea, one that positioned education as a pathway to upward mobility. Modern education systems have inherited many of these same principles. Today, exams continue to function as mechanisms for distributing opportunity, serving as a signal of readiness, capability, and achievement. This connects closely to something we explored in Season 1, and why STEM assessment still looks like the 1950s. In that episode, we discussed how assessment systems persist not simply out of tradition, but because they create shared trust. Institutions, employers, and societies rely on assessments to signal competence. They provide a common language for evaluating learning. And exams in particular remain one of the most widely recognized and widely trusted forms of that signal. But the structure, for all of its strengths, introduces an important tension. Now, examinations promise fairness. Every student is presented with the same questions. Every response is evaluated using the same criteria. In theory, this creates a level playing field, one where outcomes reflect effort and understanding rather than external advantage. But when a single exam carries enormous consequences, education systems inevitably begin to organize themselves around it. Curricula align closely with the exam content. Teachers focus their instruction on likely question types and formats, and students dedicate their significant portions of their time to preparation strategies designed to maximize their performance. Over time, the system becomes highly efficient at producing success within the structure of the exam. And in many cases, it does this remarkably well. But this efficiency comes with its trade-offs. Learning may become narrower. Exploration may give way to optimization. Curiosity may be deprioritized in favor of certainty. The system becomes very good at answering known questions, but sometimes less effective at encouraging students to ask new ones. So we arrive at a central tension. How do we design assessment systems that are both fair and expansive? How do we design systems that are rewarding mastery while still leaving space for inquiry and creativity? Across many countries, we are beginning to see thoughtful experimentation with alternative and complementary forms of assessment. Traditional examinations are not disappearing. They remain deeply embedded in educational systems and continue to serve important functions. But increasingly, they are being supplemented by other approaches like coursework and continuous assessment, creating project-based learning experiences, collaborative problem solving, and digital assessment environments that allow for more interactive and dynamic tasks for the students. These models attempt to preserve the perceived fairness and comparability of standardized evaluation, while expanding the ways students demonstrate their understanding. So instead of relying on a single high-stakes moment, they introduce multiple opportunities to show learning over time. And increasingly, this shift connects directly with two ideas we explored in Season 2, specifically in the episode Academic Integrity in the Age of AI. As technology changes how knowledge can be accessed, generated, and applied, assessment systems must also evolve. The question is no longer just what students know, but how do they think? How do they reason? And how do they apply knowledge in complex real-world contexts? Examinations are more than educational tools. They are social institutions. They shape how societies allocate opportunity. They influence how students study, how teachers teach, and how success is defined. They reflect deeply held beliefs about fairness, merit, and what it means to be qualified. And once established, they are remarkably durable because so many systems depend on the signals they produce. Understanding examination systems, then, is not just about assessment design. It's about understanding the values that underpin an entire educational ecosystem. Education technology evolves quickly. New tools, new models, new possibilities emerging all the time. But the patterns of learning and the structures we build to measure it change much more slowly. That's why we keep the cabinet open. Thanks for exploring the EdTech Curio Cabinet.